Look who's here. It's Laura's back. Uh, what a delight. There are three uh, presentations, talks that she's going to give. And the next, are you back next week and the week after, Laura?
Oh, no, the next few months. The next few
Okay.
months.
All right.
These can be far apart. They're each individual, but they have a common theme.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're all the Bible, as what you said. Yes.
Mhm.
So the big three, part one is Out of the Valley. That sounds familiar. So here's a bio, as you, if you didn't know, but I got some other things going on here that I want to share. Just uh, there. Um, I like this. Has a youthful nature, love for people, and contagious enthusiasm for all of the below. And I'll just read off a quick bunch of these. Um, Making a difference in our lives in the world. She's the founder of Unity of the Heartland, of the Heartmind, yes, and creator of the Daily Show video, Today's Headlines. Here, Heartlines, sorry. Cheers. And I think that's up there. Third generation Unity minister, yes, and published author and writer of poetry and music. She has lived in the Middle East and traveled throughout the world, giving classes and workshops on biblical interpretation. Uh, it, and just you have traveled the world, and you have traveled to multiple places that I want to hear about more. So, everybody, welcome Laura Bennett.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And wow. So yeah, traveling the world. When Larry and I lived in Bahrain for a couple of years, we explored the Middle East where we could, Jordan and Oman and Dubai and as well as Bahrain. We didn't get over to Saudi Arabia because I couldn't go there at the time. Um, they would not have let me in without some visa or something. So, but we did go to Israel, even though it wasn't allowed. They let us in, and they stamped. They had a way of doing it for people like that. They stamped a piece of paper rather than the passport itself, so we could get back into Bahrain. But now they're open. Now they're open with each other. So yeah, we've lived in some beautiful places. Every place I've lived, if it's desert, if it's mountains, if it's or visited, if it's tropical, they're all just amazingly beautiful. Every place on earth, because the earth is beautiful. We live, when we say heaven on earth, it's already here, if we open our eyes for it. And that's what today's lesson is about. It's about opening our eyes and seeing where we are. It's about our oneness. We have had so much going on in our politics in the U.S. And in other ways that have created these divisions, and now it's and I don't mean this in any derogatory or otherwise. Now it's fighting fire with fire. We're finding ourselves doing tit for tat things politically. And people just seemingly dividing more and more, getting more tense and angry with the day-to-day life. How many of us since COVID have found ourselves to be a little more on edge, a little more, yeah, challenged, a little more looking at the news on a daily basis and making our commentary, which isn't always positive. Yeah, so we find things like this going on in our life. And what I try to do with the Heartlines, today's Heartlines, is I try to center us in the oneness, in the love, and then whatever we do from there. Whatever we do, we can act politically, we can hold uh, things and people to account, but come from that place of love, come from that place of the heart when you do that, rather than the hatred, rather than the fear. I know there's a lot that we need to stand up for, many of us feel, but I try to keep anchoring us in that spiritual place. And it's not always a spiritual language I use. I sometimes don't even mention spirit, but it's a positive language that has us come from that place with each other as human beings. So yes, I taught the Bible for 14 years at Unity Village, when all the schooling was centered there. All the global schooling was centered there. And there's no better way to learn about something than to teach it. So I learned a lot about the Bible, including something I'd known since my Sunday school days, which are the 3 most popular passages. But I also would learn why they're the 3 most popular passages, and that's because they have a universal appeal. So I chose these 3 passages. The first is the 23rd Psalm. Did anybody at any point in time learn the 23rd Psalm when you were coming up through? My Unity Church, one of the things we learned in Sunday school was the 23rd Psalm. And then the other is the Lord's Prayer. That will be the second one that I do, and whenever I do it, it'll be just perfect. And then the third is the love letter that Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 13. So these are the 3 passages we'll be focusing on. Today's passage is about finding our oneness again. It's about finding our connection, not just with spirit, but with each other. In the face of all the division that's been going on, we have within us that divine space where we can find it. And that's what the 23rd Psalm is about. It's about lying down in those green pastures. And one of the great writers of oneness, of course, was Rumi. I've talked about Rumi in previous talks with this group. And so I'm going to quote what I've quoted before from Rumi as far as his little short stanzas, which are very well known. And you may recognize this. So we'll just start with this idea. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. So that Rumi had the oneness. He had it. He was the experience of that oneness. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that as we go through the 23rd Psalm. So let's start with what the 23rd Psalm is. We'll start our slides. Yeah, okay. Characteristics of the Psalms. The Psalm is number 23 out of 150 Psalms. And basically they are poetry and songs that were collected over hundreds of years and put together in what became the hymnal of the Second Temple period. In the Second Temple period, the first time the temple was destroyed by the Babylonians. And then after the return from the exile, the people built the temple again. So that's called the Second Temple period, until this temple was once again destroyed by the Romans later. But songs or psalterion. So psalterion is basically poetry put to music. And we try to imagine or guess what the music, from old images and things, what the music sounded like or must have been like. And simple string instruments were used. And if you've attended services, that it's really the songs that open the heart, isn't it? It's really the music that reaches you at a deeper level than any words that I can use. And so this kind of thing was put together over hundreds of years, that poetry that was put to music and collected. That's the Psalterium, or the Psalms. In Hebrew, it's a collection of praises called Tehillim. And when you see I am at the end of a Hebrew word, it's a plural, called praises. And the thing about the Hebrew literature is, even when it was done in first person, in single person, it was about the whole community. Every individual was a representation of the whole community. Every individual carried the community with them, and vice versa. And the community took care of the individual. And I was sharing earlier, I just came from such a place at Namaste Village in Ahihik, where it's a whole spiritual community. Everybody's individual. They live their own lives, but they live together in these casitas and apartments, or they live, they each have their own private space, but they also come together for meals, for morning prayer time. And it's very universal oriented. It was founded on the teachings of the Course in Miracles. And they still have those classes, but now they explore and all kinds of other things, including unity, which is why the Unity Minister in Residence for Unity Ahihik lives there for a month in that community. So when I saw that the Psalms were created from a sense of, when you see an individual, or when they're from David, many Psalms are traditionally from David. When they come from David, David is all of the people. Any ruler of a people is all of the people. So they are spoken in a community sense. What one goes through, everyone goes through. If one is lifted up, all are lifted up. This was the ancient Semitic way of thinking. Not the Simon and Garfunkel way, I am a rock, I am an island, but I am a community. I am a community. So community, only as a member of the community does the individual share in the promises of the covenant, because the individual is the community, and the community is expressed through its individuals. Okay, next slide. There are three categories in the Psalms: lament, thanksgiving, and just plain old, like going to church, singing hymns. So lament is, of course, grief. When I see lamentations in the Bible, for example, it's a grieving process. It allows people to go to the depths of the sadness they feel at what they've lost, and to process those emotions in a very healthy way, in the presence of spirit. Lament, in a sense, honors the whole human being, what we feel, both positively and when we grieve, when we're sad. And we find an upliftment through such psalms, just like in recent decades, hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song to make me feel at home while I miss my baby? It's like that kind of music has actually an uplift feel to it. So the intention of lamentations or laments is to get those emotions, those core emotions, give them a healthy process of release. Thanksgiving, so much to be grateful for. That's what always brings us home. What brings us home is starting to count our blessings, isn't it? is to start to be grateful for what's around you right here and right now. And then hymns, just singing to God, chanting, whatever, we sing things. I grew up doing those little chants, those little biblical chants. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. We did that as a round, and just different little things. This is the day that the Lord has made. Things that remind us, and they can do it in other languages too. The chanting, the kirtanas of the Sanskrit language, of singing God's name, Hare Krishna, whatever it is that has our hearts sing. That's what a psalm is intended to do. It's to make your heart sing. And the Psalms were divided into 5 books to reflect the Torah, which is 5 books. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The pre-exilic use of many of these songs, some of them may have actually come from David, or at least David's era, and the post-exilic collection, again, also known as the hymn book of the Second Temple, because it was put together during that time. Okay, and our next slide. Yeah, Psalm 23 characteristics. It's a pastoral setting. The peace and beauty of nature is involved, with possible lurking danger in the shadows. But isn't that life? Life is beautiful, but we've got those shadows that tend to pull us away from our true feeling of connection. God is the shepherd, and as a shepherd, the qualities of God are guidance and protection. I remember my metaphysical teacher, Ed Rabel, saying, when you consciously choose to embark on the spiritual path, he says, you come under 2 laws, the law of divine guidance and the law of divine protection. In other words, you can tune in to your guidance and just take the next step. You may not even know that it's the right step to take, but just do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. You are being divinely guided, and you are being protected along the way. There's nothing, as Charles Fillmore said, that can disturb the calm peace of my soul. But I don't know about you, but my soul hasn't always been calm and at peace, especially in recent years. But this is our opportunity. Remembering passages like this is our opportunity to go back into that field beyond right and wrong, where we experience our oneness. And God is a banquet host. This is provision and peace, to know that we are always provided for. That's prosperity. That to know that whatever we need, when we need it, we will have access to it. And peace. Peace is, the banquet table with the enemies. There's something about sitting and sharing a meal together is how it's how enemies made a covenant with each other. It's how they made an agreement, by sharing a meal with each other. So when we sit down with our enemies, or our perceived enemies, I will put it that way, our perceived enemies, we no longer perceive them as enemies. We are sharing the same meal. So God is the banquet host and a shepherd in the 23rd Psalm. How about moving to that next slide? Okay. This I got from the metaphysical Bible class on Sunday mornings. I think it was a quote that I picked out at one point from the Revealing Word. A spiritual interpretation of the Bible. And that's what I call them. I call them spiritual interpretations. Metaphysical means beyond the physical. It means deeper. It can include science and psychology and all of that, and it's wonderful. But really what we're seeking is that deeper spiritual interpretation. A spiritual interpretation of the Bible demands the meaning of every figure, type, parable, and symbol. They must be in harmony with fundamental principles of being. So when we look at the psalm, that's what we're looking at. What is in harmony with fundamental principles of being? When we look at any biblical passage, be it an uplifting one like Psalm 23 or a negative one, like, or even one like Proverbs, a vain woman is like a gold ring and a pig's snout. That's a verse from Proverbs. It's one of those verses you might not ever find in the Daily Word, but it is okay. So when you look at something like that at a deeper spiritual level, a vain woman means when your feelings are ego-based. When your feelings are ego-based, it's like a gold ring and a pig's snout. Any beauty you may find is not appreciated, or because to put something in a pig's snout, of course, in the Hebrew culture is to defile it, but for us it's simply to ignore its real beauty. Although there are people who love pigs and will give them jewelry and things like that, but that's basically what it means. When our emotions are caught up in our vanity, in our ego-centeredness, and this is what creates so much division too. When our emotions are caught up in our ego-centeredness, we don't see the beauty that's right in front of us, right at the nose, right in front of us. We don't see it because all we see is the unclean thing, which in this instance is called a pig. But I don't think pigs, I think pigs are just animals and very loving in some contexts. But yeah, all we see is the unclean thing rather than the beauty that's right in front of us. So these are ways to spiritually interpret and understand the message that's really being brought forth in biblical passages. So we're going to do that now with the 23rd Psalm. And let's begin. And then we'll let this be our meditation at the end. Okay. So Psalm 23, verses 1 through 3. I'm going to ask for, I think it's 4. I think this is split into 4 slides, 4 or 5. Anyway, I'm going to ask for volunteer readers to read the left-hand verses all at once, just to read the left-hand verses. So who would like to start by doing that on Psalm 23? Jeff, okay, and then Sherry, we'll get you at the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so Jeff, just go ahead and read just the left-hand column, which is the biblical scripture.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake.
Okay. All right. Yep. Now that was one of the first Bible passages I memorized when I was in Sunday school. The Lord is my shepherd. And when I first was doing that, and I heard the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, I thought it was saying I don't want the Lord to be my shepherd. I thought, well, this doesn't make any sense, because my brain at that point didn't quite understand poetic language. But the Lord is my shepherd, and the next thing would be to say, therefore, if you put a therefore in there, I shall not want. I shall not want for anything. This is also a prosperity teaching. I shall not want for anything. Why? And let's look at the right-hand column now. The Spirit of God, actually, I should say, lives in me and as me. That's the Lord. The Lord is the Spirit of God living in you and as you, the Lord of your being. The Lord is, when you see the Lord, you're referring to the Lord of your being, the I am of you. You're referring to your spiritual nature, the Lord that lives in your being. That's what the Lord is, the Lord of your being, and it permeates you and it fills you, and it is there beneath every thought, beneath every feeling. That's why it's Lord. It's Lord over all. It's the allness of you. Guides and protects me, is my shepherd. I'm guided and protected by the divine within me, is basically what it's saying. Providing for my every need, I shall not want. I have no want because I know that all of my needs are provided for. The price of eggs may go up. I saw a dozen eggs for $7 yesterday in the grocery store. $7.50 actually. But there was a cheaper kind, but I don't like the cheaper kind. I want to get those free range eggs, you know. But now they cost. But you know, the price of eggs may go up, but I can still buy them. My needs are still provided. If I can't buy eggs, then I'll find somebody giving eggs away. Or if I can't buy vegetables, it's that time of year, I'll find a friend who has a vegetable garden and too many vegetables to deal with. There's always a way to find those provisions. Now, I'll get to this. I'll get to this when we get to the shadows. When we get to the shadows, there are people in our world who we are seeing who are not provided for right now. And you know, what is our sense and our feeling about that? We'll address that in a little bit. He makes me lie down in green pastures. I am in a state of peace. And I should have said and fulfillment, because green pastures are a state of prosperity. When everything's green and growing, it means a country is prosperous. That's why so many of these high civilizations formed around rivers, around bodies of water where things were green and growing. He leads me beside still waters, finding stillness in prayer. When a shepherd brought their flock to drink, they would make sure that the waters were calm enough for the animals to go in, that they weren't all stirred up by a storm or anything else. To go to still waters is to go to a place of peace and safety, and to be still like the waters. Also, still waters are a metaphor for a clear and calm mind. One of the first things I did in college in religion studies was there was a group of students that wrote term papers, and then they were put into a booklet called Don't Stir Up the Mud. And it was about finding that clear and calm mind. And that's when I first explored where science and spirituality met. I read Fritjof Capra and Gene Houston. Yes. And I came, you know, that's where I first learned of the consciousness of the observer, how what happens in the physical world does not happen until somebody sees it and perceives it. And so how we see our world, is part of what creates our world. and what we're seeing in the world, how can we see our world in a state of oneness, even with what's going on in our world today? We need to find those still waters. We need to find those green pastures and go to that place of oneness within ourselves. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. I am healed. The restoration of the soul. True healing takes place in the soul, remembering its wholeness. True healing takes place in the individual remembering its wholeness. The fascinating thing is, once the soul remembers its wholeness, there is no distinction of soul. There's just the one. There's no distinction of I this and I that. There's just the one. He leads me in right paths. My way unfolds clearly before me. Again, to be led in right paths is not according to an outer set of rules, as has been thought through the centuries. To go on paths of righteousness is to rightly use your life step by step to bring forth what you know spiritually. As I discover my true spiritual nature for his name's sake. Name in the Bible, whenever you see name in his name, you're referring to in his nature. In the name and after the nature of the Christ. Or Charles Fillmore used to pray in the name and after the nature of Jesus Christ, because he knew that name referred to nature. And to take on the nature was to take on the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness. As I discover my true spiritual nature for his name's sake. Okay. And next slide. And who would like to read this part of the passage? Oh, yes, Sherry, thank you.
Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me.
Okay. So remember when I said the individual is the community? We are talking not just your local community, but your global community. So the reason, I don't know about you, but when I see the stories coming from Gaza, when I see the stories coming from Ukraine, when I see the stories coming from Somalia, I am moved. I am moved at a very deep level. Again, a sense of sadness and how can I say it? I'm troubled like the waters that get troubled, looking for that way to settle again into that state of peace. Right now, our humanity is going through what Emily Cady in Lessons of Truth called chemicalization, tremendously so. And we see this happening in parts of our world. This is what the psalmist called the valley of the shadow of death. But the point is, it's very real for people, but it is a shadow, and a shadow never lasts. It lasts only as long as people are paying attention to it, to the reality of it. What I'm saying is, I fully believe that when people get beyond the reality of you are my enemy, when they get beyond that, the shadow that is cast over so many others right now and creating such havoc in so many lives will fade. But we need to be that stand. We need to be that stand for that oneness. And that's what your community is doing right now. You are that stand for that oneness. And it doesn't mean we sit by and let things happen. No, to be a stand for something means to be committed to it, means to put it out there, means to speak to it, means to act toward it. And these are the kind of things I say in my Heartlines. So as I move through the dark nights of my soul, we have a group soul as a humanity, and it's hurting right now. And we are here for one purpose: to move through the shadow and into the light. I have nothing to fear. I fear no evil. I fear no darkness. I fear no deception. I fear no separation. I fear no threat. As Charles Fillmore said, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. I move forward with courage, with conviction, to do what there is to do. For you are with me, for I am one with the divine. I am one. There it is again. Your rod and your staff with clarity and assurance. The rod clears the way. The rod points in the right direction. It moves the flock in the right direction. It clears the path. It beats away the predators. The rod is the clearing instrument, and assurance is the gathering and protection instrument. It pulls the sheep in. It helps to support the shepherd as he goes along. Your rod and your staff, the assurance and the clarity I need to move forward. They comfort me. I am at ease with that inner assurance and clarity. You can even be a little emotionally stirred up and still have that inner center of peace, the eye of the storm, as you move forward with clarity. Next slide, and we're going to move forward. Okay, who would like to read? Sherry, would you read this for us as well?
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows.
Right. There are good things spread out before me if I'm willing to see them. If I'm willing to see the good is there. I have to be willing to look for it and to see it. In the presence of mine enemies, and even found in adversarial conditions, our enemies can be people or conditions. We perceive them as enemies, as something against us. But as Gary Simmons said in his book, no one and nothing is against me. It all helps to strengthen and build me up to being greater than I know myself to be. And even found in adversarial conditions in the presence of my enemies. As I awaken to my true spiritual nature, that is again, anointing the head with oil. Oil represents spirit. It represents that authority of spirit, because it was those in authority who were anointed. Anointing to my true spiritual nature, the Lord of my being. My blessings abound. My cup overflows. My cup overflows. A true prosperity teaching. Next slide. We're going to keep moving here. And I'll just finish this up. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long, or in some cases it says forever, which is your whole life long, because your life doesn't stop when your body does, when you think about it. So I follow the ways of love and mercy, or love and forgiveness, goodness and mercy. I follow the ways of love and forgiveness every day, all the days of my life, And I live in a state of spiritual awareness. That the house represents a consciousness. It represents a state of mind. I live in a state of spiritual awareness, the house of the Lord, through this life and beyond. Okay, next slide. This sums it up. So dwelling in the awareness of our oneness in the midst of a divisive world, let your heart sing. Sing the song of your heart. Whatever that is, it might be a chant, it might be an old hymn, it might be just something you make up in the moment, or it might just be humming or whistling, or whatever it is that makes your heart sing. It could be an old poem. It doesn't have to even have a melody to it. But let your heart sing. Repeat that song. When Larry and I were out on the mountain trail in Washington State in the Olympics, and I was just recovering. If you want a challenge, go on a mountain trail when you're recovering from vertigo. I was just recovering from vertigo, and I had my poles with me, my rod and my staff, so to speak. But we got to this place where the next step up, it was considered to be a moderate difficulty trail, but the next step up was 6 feet up this smooth rock face. And the trail was very narrow and it dropped very deep on the right side. And so you had to get up over this rock face to continue on the trail. So I was looking for the little crevices, and I was digging my poles in and pulling myself up. And fortunately, I had those hiking boots that grip, and finding the niches and pulling myself up on this rock face. And and immediately I just started, because I was engaged with Siddha Yoga then, I just started saying, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. It was just spontaneous and right there. That's the song of your heart, whatever it is that comes out. Whatever it is that comes out. What was it I was thinking? Yeah. And another one I've done through the years is to the tune of Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and it's in the Unity hymnal. God's love is deep within me. God's love is deep within me, ever satisfying my soul. God's love is deep within me, ever satisfying my soul. So whatever your heart is singing, listen to it. Praise the people and things of life and their divine source. Praise, look for things to praise, to give thanks for, and to praise in people. And connect in communion. That's that spiritual communion, and in community with each other. Okay, and next is the meditation. And we'll let the song bring us out of meditation. And it'll just be a very brief meditation. But what's going to take us in is that spiritual reading of the 23rd Psalm. So let's take a deep breath and close our eyes. And feel the silence around us right now. Another quote from Rumi: not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the East or the West, not out of the ocean or up from the sky, from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist. I am not an entity in this world or the next, did not descend from Adam and Eve or any origin story. My place is the placeless, a trace of the traceless, neither body or soul. I belong to the beloved, have seen the two worlds as one, and that one is calling me to be still and know. And from the 23rd Psalm, the spiritual reading. The Spirit of God living in me and as me guides and protects me, providing for my every need. I am in a state of peace. Finding stillness in prayer, I am healed by remembering my wholeness. My way unfolds clearly before me as I discover my true spiritual nature. As I move through the dark nights of my soul, I have nothing to fear, for I am one with the divine. With clarity and assurance, I am at ease. There are good things spread out before me, and even found in adversarial conditions. As I awaken to my true spiritual nature, my blessings abound. I follow the ways of love and forgiveness every day of my life, and I live in a state of spiritual awareness through this life and beyond. And so it is. And take a deep breath and open your eyes to the pasture of plenty around you. And even though it uses the patriarchal language, traditionally John Michael Talbot does that. It's speaking of that spirit of your being.
Thanks so much. I thought that was just amazing, extraordinary. And I never considered the metaphor to the degree that you took us to in that. And it just makes it all come alive.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, really extraordinary.